not like they woke up one morning and go like, how do you do business with a realtor? Let's do that. Their whole thing was, I want to buy a house and I have to talk to a realtor.
Which is fine. Like, it doesn't mean that they don't value you. 90% of home buyers valued the guidance of a realtor to purchase a home last year.
Welcome back to Life at 10 Tenths, where we inspire you to live at the pinnacle of your ability and purpose. We are back again. Matt Benelli is with me. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. What's happening? And good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody listening. Appreciate y'all.
We appreciate everybody jumping in with us today. We're going to jump right in. And this is becoming I think a bigger and bigger thing that I'm watching out here is we're watching changes in the real estate industry, changes in the buyer's processes that people are doing with their clients out here right now, new forms. And there is a definite story that I'm watching playing out here right now of people that look at real estate as a job and people that look at it as a career and a business. And Matt, the field is starting to divide, and you can watch it in stress levels of these people, of the ones that are like, I got this, to the ones that are like, ah!
Yeah, we are. And I love how you threw career in there, because I feel like there is like this hierarchy of how you view this profession, job, career, business, and everybody's going to have their kind of own definition of what all those words mean. But, at the core, Garrett, like when we look at people who just look at it as a job, I'm just going to go do these tasks and get paid, versus someone on the business thought side is looking at it as like, I need to have systems. I need to have processes. I need to have things in place to make sure that this thing runs and provides value. And yes, I'm an integral part of it, but it needs to really operate like a business. Dude, with all the buyer agency stuff, we're seeing a separation of this mentally. And I think we're going to see that physically over the next year to 18 months.
The stories that are coming from the agents that I'm working with, Matt, are one is, and I think we've talked a little bit about this, but they're starting to ask themselves, like, should I be more concerned? Like, I feel like I'm really confident with the path that we're going and the things that we're like, but everybody in my office is freaking out right now. And they're like, I feel like maybe I should be freaking out more, but I feel really good and I feel really confident. And I think this is where that divide is coming down. And I also think it's the ones that have taken you have the security of having a database of people that know you, like you, trust you, people that they're like, that's my agent. If I have a question, that's who I'm going to. If you've built that out, when you sit down with them to say, hey, we have some new forms that we have to use to be able to work together, because you've built a business, because you have people that trust you for what you do, this is an easy process. When you're working with strangers out here, people that don't know you from Adam, and all of a sudden you're like, okay, we're going to have you fill some documents out here before we can work together. And you're just going through this as a job process. Everything is a new person you just get to work with. Did we turn it into something? Did we not turn it into something? Okay, move along to the next one. This is a scary process. This is where I think a lot of that fear is coming in, is we've never treated this like a business. We've never treated this like a career. And now in this, like, I do this activity, I get paid. I do this activity, I get paid. I got to go find the new thing so I can get paid again. This is a huge hurdle in that process, lack of process that we've had before. Maybe I think lack of process is the best way to look at it. And so I think it's really interesting to see these different tiers start to break out. And we're only 1 week in, and as we record this.
And I feel bad for agents that have chosen this profession and are doing a good job, because I do feel like brokerages and the system has kind of failed them in a way, because there's like all these changes are coming out and we're going to kind of do our best to tell you what's going on, but you're also kind of on your own. And it's like, and just because it's 1099 versus W-2, that's just a form of getting paid. Yes, okay, you could argue that if you're going to show up as an independent contractor, you need to understand that you're running your own personal business here. And I do agree with that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, we've lured people into this industry, to be like, oh, you can just kind of come and do these things and sell a house or two.
Be a part-timer. You can just do it on the side. Work with your friends when they need it and you need help with the real. It's just think of the commission check.
Yeah. And now it's like, oh, and by the way, and now you have attorneys out there saying, no, by the way, if you do this one little thing wrong, we're coming after you. right? We're coming after you. And it's like, whoa, hold on, right? Which is highlighting now what we're talking about is the need. And really, I'll remove the word need because it's a very heavy word, but to say the opportunity to have processes and systems in place that not only allow you to attract and do business at a higher level, but give you freedom of your own life because you're not tied into just being the one that has to do every single thing and is on demand, on call all the time, which is, and and it's not like people don't do this.
Yeah.
The beauty is we get to work with a lot of people who do this already,
Yeah.
which is fun because I get to have conversations all day with people who are like, yeah, we're good. I got things set up. Like, yeah, we're still trying to understand really how they want us to do these contracts and stuff like that, but they're not freaking out. Whereas you go into the forums and the Facebook groups and you have people like running around with their hair on fire. It's crazy.
Here's the confusing thing, Matt, and I'm kind of happy that you brought up this. Like they haven't been set up for success. A lot of the general real estate population, and the more I'm watching this, this is where I'm seeing the confusion start to come into play. Not only is it different state to state, we've all talked about that. We have, I mean, Matt, you and I, we coach agents all over the United States, and when this first came out, everybody's like, "What do we do?" And I'm like, I don't know your state. I don't know how your state is going to be handling this and what they're going to want you to do. Like you need to turn to your representatives of your state, your associations that you have locally and figure out what they want to have you do. But then you go into the cities, and the cities I'm finding are not congruent with one another. And then you can put 10 real estate offices on the same street and they're all speaking about this differently right now. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, okay, guys, like I understand where the confusion lies because all you have to do is have a bunch of realtor friends, which all realtors, you guys all know. You all hang out, you all know each other. All you have to do is go out to a luncheon and hang out and be like, well, how's your office doing it? Well, how's your office doing it? Well, you're doing, we can't do that in our office. Well, what do you mean you're doing in your office? And the stress levels go up and they go up. They keep rising as you're going, am I doing this right? And this is where I have found right now, this is where I'm watching these agents that are going, I've got this. I've got a clear picture of this, of how I'm going to do it. And a lot of it comes down to having a true professional working relationship with your clients as a business, not as a hobby.
Yeah. Well, and this gets into, okay, well, what's the processes they need to put? I have a buyer process. I have a seller process. Fantastic, right? That means like you're already miles ahead if you have those things in place. If you don't, we need to have a conversation. But it's also what's your process of communicating with your clients post transaction as a business? And what is your process in marketing and attracting people? What's your process in onboarding people into a buyer or a seller process? Because what's going on here has not changed fundamentally how the consumers, a buyer and a seller, purchase and sell real estate. Like they're doing it the same way. How they work with you, a member of the National Association of Realtors, not just a licensed real estate agent, a member of that organization. That's what's changing from your end the other direction. If you have a process in place, like we can figure out the paperwork.
Yeah.
Like that's easy. We can figure out like what do we need to do? How do we operate things on our end? We want to make sure the process on the consumer facing side is set and looks good. And if you're running a business, this means, even if it's you who's doing all the communication, because people say, well, I don't want to be removed from the things. That's fine. Do you have a checklist for yourself? Do you have a written process for yourself? And I always look at it and say, if you had to walk away from your business for whatever reason for 2 weeks, is it able to run? Are you able to hand it to somebody else and they know exactly what's going on? And most people, Garrett, cannot do that
No,
with confidence.
no. And so, Matt, let's go back to this process you keep talking about right now, because the ones that I'm watching that are going, I'm totally confident right now. I'm good. I've actually done this with some clients and it was totally smooth. It worked just fine. The process that I'm finding is referral or client comes into that agent. That agent then says, we need to sit down just like we should have been doing forever. I need to set time, come into the office, let's sit down. I'm specifically talking about buyers right now. We've been doing this for listings forever. But for buyers, come into the office. I can meet you at Starbucks. I can meet with you anywhere you want, but we need to sit down. We need to go through my process so I can figure out where you're at right now, where you're going, what's important to you, what are all the moving parts that we're working with. And then once you make it all the way through that, then we sit down and say, all right, we need to establish our working relationship together. And then you get to go through these new steps. A lot of people have done, most of the population has not accomplished yet, or they haven't had to handle that yet. So now we've got this new piece added in. Let's take typical realtor, not the one we just described that has a process. Typical realtor right now, what they have done is phone rings, whether it's a referral, whether it is somebody that is a stranger, whether it's a friend of theirs, and says, I want to go see a home. This is basically, let's go back 6 months ago. And they go, great, what home do you want to go see? And they say, I want to see this one on 123 Easy Street. And they go, great, I'll take you to it. Actually, I'll meet you there. And we go and they open up the door. And the whole time the realtor's walking around going, I hope they want to work with me. I hope I can lock them down. Maybe we can show them another property. Here, I came with 3 other properties like this one that I think you're going to want to go see next, hoping they'll all jump in the car and they'll go to the next one together, because that means we have more of a working relationship and the likelihood of me being able to sell them houses is even better. Okay, now take that realtor and say, you can't show them a house until you have this stuff signed. You can't take them out and work with them until you have this documents done. Well, all of a sudden, they have no relationship with these people at all. They haven't had the hook of, I can show you that house, be able to work for them, which has worked for the entire time of real estate. And now they're sitting there going, hey, we got to sign this before I can take you out. And the clients, and this is what I'm hearing, it is coming in through my realtors that have a process. Yeah, so-and-so over there was trying to get me to sign paperwork. I'm not signing paperwork with them. I don't even know who they are. Oh,
Well, and
opportunity.
that leads to a whole thing of like, that's gonna, lack of a better phrase, blow up in somebody's face, because buyers and sellers at some point are going to say, you guys have added so much complexity into working with realtors that you are now hindering our ability to buy and sell homes, which is the monopoly that y'all have on that space is causing me problems, and I'm going to sue you guys for that. So watch out for that.
Matt, you're going down a whole different level. And I want to just jump back to like what I think is an opportunity out here right now. And I was going to do a whole nother episode on this. That, listen to me very clearly. The people that have a process and the people that have relationships that they've built and they've got a community, they're not having any problem with this stuff.
No. And well, and I want to say too, that it doesn't necessarily matter what your process is, but it's about having that process. Like if you're somebody who likes to not hold a initial showing back from, somebody who says, hey, I would like to see 123 Main Street. Great. Awesome. It's what are the tools and the things that in place of your process to help somebody understand? Because I think even what you described with the, hey, let's go sit down, that really works if there's a relationship. But for some people, like, wait, I just want to go see a property. I don't want to come into your office and sit there for 2 hours or however long this could be. Right.
And I get it that there are short-term showings. Like, I get it.
I totally understand that too. And that's the whole point, right? Because even the person who sits down and says, here's my whole process, they also have a little upfront thing too. And whether you're working with buyers or sellers, and this is the running it like a business mindset, is if somebody's inquiring for you and it has to go to I need to talk to you for you to have any information of what it's like to work with me, we're missing a very crucial step in the initial part of your process, which is, hey, thanks for reaching out, which you can still do this personally.
Yep.
Here's some information, by the way, on what it's like to work with me. Here's what you can expect now that you've inquired into me. Here's the things that are going to help you achieve. And by the way, let me ask you this, and this, because we also, through all of this, what I'm seeing with the realtors, Garrett, that don't have a process, that are looking at it like a job, they're making it all about themselves.
Oh, yeah.
And they're going to the consumer and saying, well, for me to work with you, you have to sign this because it's all about me. Whereas the people who have a process is like, awesome. Hey, I want to help you achieve that goal. Tell me a little bit more about what you want to achieve. Fantastic. By the way, there are some things that are part of this process in order to help you get to that goal. Let's sit down and talk about that, right? There's a major difference there.
There's something that you also said, which is really important, which is making it all about me. And what I'm finding is, and we talked about this on a past episode, which is this whole thing of like the realtors need to get better at articulating their value. This is what I do. This is what I offer. This is what I do. That's different than what these guys do over here. This is what sets me apart from all these people. We can get into this what I do and why you want to hire me and why you want to sign this piece of paper really easily. The trick is the questions, Matt, and you just breeze through it very quickly. And you got to get really good at asking questions. You want to set yourself apart from others. Take interest in the person that's sitting in front of you right now, because what's going to make you have a tremendous amount of value is this person actually cares about me. I remember when we started using buyer interviews, I started using these with clients many, many, many years ago when this was not even heard of, is sitting down and doing a full blown interview with the buyer. And what was really interesting was the buyers would step out of that and they would say, I never had somebody take the care and concern of the time up front to understand me and what I'm about and what I need. In any other time I've ever bought real estate, nobody's ever done that. And I appreciate you. This is where your value lies, not all the goodies and stuff that you do and why they need to work with you. They just want someone to show up. And when they see somebody show up, that's when they go, this is the person I want to be doing this with. So, questions.
Imagine if you go and you're looking for a personal trainer, all right? And you have two options. You have the person who's like, this is how I lift. This is how I get big. This is how I eat. This is how I make sure that I'm in peak performance, right? Would you like to work with me? Versus the personal trainer who looks the part, because in that industry, you probably should look the part, but says something like, what are you trying to achieve? Are you trying to lose fat or do you want to gain strength? Do you
Yeah.
want endurance or do you want short-term explosiveness? Are you looking to do this generally for health, or is there a performance reason that you want to come into this program? Oh, wait a minute. You're interested in me. That's the person that I want to work with. And when you move from job to career mindset, not even to business mindset, because I think you can have an incredible career with a high paying job as a realtor, right? Where you don't necessarily have to be thinking of like, I'm building a whole business here, but you're building a career. Because if you're an entrepreneur at a company, you're not thinking about, I'm going to own this place one day. Maybe you are. You're thinking about, how can I provide the best value for this corporation, which has you thinking about the customers and the clients and how do I better perform for them. And so if you just go from job to career, it's okay, if I want to have longevity here, I need to make sure I'm serving my people at a high level. What's the best way to do that? And you said it there, Garrett, which is ask questions. Okay, let me take a look at my process of how I'm working with the customers that are coming in. I don't need to change the corporate process, but I'm just looking at my own process here is, how am I just answering the phone? How am I answering the initial email? And when I worked in finance, I, I emails were a thing, right? Finance people are very direct, right? It's just first name, if that he was even there. And I would always add hi and hello or whatever. And some people would kind of say, like, why are you doing that? Like, they're just wasting time in your emails. But when I'm working with counterparts in my job, because I was thinking more career minded then, I had better relationships with the counterparts and the clients that I was interacting with that made me perform better in my job because of, I was just personalizing the email, something as simple as that. And so if you're a realtor listening to this and you're like, I'm kind of stuck in this job space, start to go from job to career. How do I create the better experience for customers and clients coming into me? I don't need to figure out the whole thing, but I just need to figure out a little thing to make it a little bit better, which just could be a question of, great, you want to see 123 Main Street? What attracted you to that property? Right?
Yeah.
Let's just learn a little bit about them. You're not holding anything back. You're not jumping right to, by the way, now that you've inquired, I'm going to lock you down with this contract and you are just going to have to pay me, or worry about like, I can't lock them down. So I'm going to write in 0%. And then you're going to freak out that you're not going to get paid. There's a whole conversation with that, but it's, you step up to the career mindedness and now all of a sudden you shift the focus from yourself to them. And then you go to business owner and like, we can rip the lid off of this thing.
Well, and you just keep raising the bar up. And this is what's so interesting about this time right now is this is going to weed out the people that treat this as a job. And that's what we're starting to watch, where the people that are freaking out right now, they're either going to step into it and say, I got to take this more serious. I need to have a better approach to this. I need to ask better questions. I need to show up better for my clients. You made a comment, which is really true, that the last thing we want to do is make this process difficult for people to be able to buy or sell homes. The minute we are in the way, I have heard this said for years, that buyers will figure out ways to buy homes and sellers will figure out ways to sell homes. And we either need to help them do that, because the minute we're in the way, they will replace us and they will go around us. They will figure out a new way, because that's all they want. They don't want to work with a realtor. That's not the end all goal here. It's not like they woke up one morning and go like, "How do you do business with a realtor?" Like, let's do that. Their whole thing was, "I want to buy a house and I have to talk to a realtor."
It's such a good point. It's like no one wakes up being like, I am so excited to work with a real, but which is fine. Like it doesn't mean that they don't value you. 90% of home buyers valued the guidance of a realtor to purchase a home last year.
Yeah.
Don't worry about whether they want, but focusing on the goal.
It's like buying a car. I love buying a car. I hate working with the salesperson at the dealership. I hate the process of it. I hate I knew exactly what I wanted and exactly what I wanted to buy, and I still was there for 5 hours before I left with the car.
So why do we make this stuff so darn hard? And, this
Which
comes into, go
they went
ahead.
around the dealerships, by the way. And you look at that and you look at things like Carvana came out, buy it through you can just go here in the vending machine, we'll drop your car down and you just get into it and drive away. Like they started to figure out, how can we do that? And some of them have been successful, some of them have not.
Well, yeah, you have cars and bids, you have bring a trailer, you can go buy cars on auction on websites now too.
Anytime the process becomes difficult or we get in the way of people being able to do what they're trying to do, they will figure out paths around that situation. And we've watched it in a lot of these industries. This is an industry right now is a beautiful time to say, how can we make this easier for these clients? How can we make this more streamlined for them? And this is why having that process up front that just makes them go, not get stuck in this moment. Because it's the first example I use of these guys going, I can show you a house, but we got to do all this paperwork before we do it, without any value in it. That's a sticking point. That is uncomfortable. That is making them go, I don't want to do this right now. I'm out. Like, thanks though. Nice chatting with you. To this other side of like, oh, okay. Like, I trust you, Matt. Okay. I feel like this is a good working relationship and I don't feel like you're going to screw me. Perfect. Excellent. Here we go. I'm ready to go. Let's go out and do this. And I think this is an opportunity for all of you out here for referrals, which I want to talk about more, Matt. Not right now. We're going to do that on a different episode, because I think the referral opportunities are insane out here right now. We're not even
Oh yeah.
seeing that possibility,
Yeah, it
but
is.
raising the bar right now. And I know you had a topic, but we talked about this book, The Psychology of Money, in the 11 circle. We just did a whole insight on this book. Matt and I have been reading it for the last month. We ripped it all apart. And one of the things he talks about in there is knowing people's investment strategies. And he says, if you go listen to the news at night and they're like, here's my top stock pick right now, this is the one everybody should be investing in right now. For who? Like,
Yeah. How long
again,
do you hold it? What's your
yeah,
strategy? What's
I
your
don't know,
goal?
Matt, what your strategy is. You don't know what my strategy is. And it's totally different than my father-in-law's strategy, who runs the stock market all day long and loves it. Are we day traders? Are we long-term holders and investors? Like, that stock might be worthless to me. And we sit there and we make these generalizations of working with these clients in front of us and just going like, oh, here, I've got a process that just works for everybody. And it's like, no, 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 no. You really want to be valuable to these people? You need to stop and ask questions, figure out who they are, where they're coming from, have a business built around this, because the really good stock people aren't just throwing out, here's the stock pick for the evening. What they're doing is they're the ones that are sitting down with you and saying, let's analyze what you want to do, where you want to go. And I'm going to show you the stuff that's going to be most interesting to get you to your final goals, destinations, whatever that might be. Be that person for these guys. We need it right now out here.
I want to add this piece in there too, is when you go from thinking that way that you just described, which moves you from job to career to business, you also start to change the way you do your marketing and your awareness campaigns, right? Because I think from a marketing standpoint right now, I think the agents that are out there highlighting in detail all this additional stuff that buyers are going to have to do are going to have problems in the long run, because you're creating more friction. Now, I don't have a problem with people explaining, hey, you've been hearing about this thing because some of the news articles that are consumer facing really confuse the crap out of what's going on.
If
And
they're
so I
even
have no
seeing
problem with
them.
people adding clarity, and Matthew Ferrara had a good Facebook post about this too. If you are focusing so much on here's the new thing and the new process and all the things that you have to do as a consumer to work with me, as you were saying before, Garrett, that to me is okay. I'm not buying a house today, but I'm remembering that video. And then I was like, oh man, but if I want to just go see this house, if I call Garrett, he's going to put me through all that stuff that he talked about on that video. And I'm not really ready for that. I love Garrett. Like he's my guy, but like I'm going to figure out how I can go see that house first without him because I just don't want to deal with that whole process and pressure. And it just seems,
They'll
and
probably just
so
drive over and knock on the door.
yeah. And so this gets into having a process as well for your marketing and awareness. Like, what is your process? And if you don't have a process, like, there needs to be a process there if you want to have a career or a long-term business in this industry. And this is a key element of it because you can still educate buyers, right? You can still share and showcase the changes that are going on with education that doesn't cause friction. Like, go back. I would challenge everybody right now, go back and look at all the content. If you've been sharing content on this, if you're just looking at it objectively, does that add friction to you if you're thinking about buying a house, or does it add clarity and comfort? And this is where I get into, hey, if it were me, I'd be saying something like, hey, you guys have been hearing a lot of things about changes that are in the industry. How you buy and sell a house is not changing, right? The actual logistics and how you guys go through physically buying a house and selling a house as a consumer is the same. How things work with me from a paperwork standpoint might be a little bit different. And we can get to that when it comes to it. But I want you to know that you are going to be completely taken care of. And the value is actually going to go up in terms of the services that you're going to get from our industry here on out. Oh, well, that sounds a whole lot different than, well, now if you want to go into this open house, you have to sign all this garbage. It's like,
I think
oh,
one of the reasons that this industry, the way it's kind of been built out, real estate, is that, for years it's been like, okay, so you get your license, you turn into a buyer's agent. Be a buyer's agent first. Leads come in, you take them out, you show them property, run them around. You're going to learn so much. And then at some point, you turn into a listing agent and you kind of work your way up the ranks. And I truly feel listing agents of the past were more business orientated. They weren't looking at it as a job. They were all of a sudden looking at it as, okay, now we've got to figure out marketing plans. We got to figure out how we're going to get this thing, staged and ready and set. And we got photographers. And do I want to just wing the photography, or do I really want to set the stage of what I stand for and the level of listings that I'm putting on the table? Let's get professionals in here. And all of a sudden, they started raising the bar, and they had this really distinct process and there was more competition. The chances of them actually being, up against another agent, especially when they're a newer listing agent, to say, here's what I have to offer, here's what it's going to look like. And they're going, but so and so over here does this. And you're going, okay, well, let's talk about that. It forced you to be more of a business owner. It forced you to look at this as more of a career. And again, this situation now is, I would just sit back and say, look, we know how to do this. Take that look of how you approached a listing for many years. And it's a different process, but look at that and say, okay, is my client right now, do I have a process for this now side over here? And we know how to do it. Just take it and mirror it. Just be like, okay, I know how to work with these people. They need time up front. You would never sit down with a listing and just be like, oh, you want to sell your house? Well, let me start doing stuff for you. And then if you like, we can sign this paperwork. It's no, you sit down and you start asking questions and you work with them, but you never would try to get them to sign your listing agreement the moment you sat down at the table with them. You can't do it on the buy side either. It's
yeah.
not going to work. And I think
Yeah.
this is, again, we've talked about this great opportunity out here, Matt, right now. And again, if you're freaked out about it, it's because you don't have a process.
And you're stuck in a job. And
Yep.
so I think that's the highlight here. If you're looking at what you do as a job primarily, um, really work to shift that mindset, because I think you're going to have a tough run at it if you're just like, hey, I just want to get out there and do my job. Well, how you do the job is changing. And if you're not focused on the career or the business side of it, then you're not focused on your clients. You're not focused on the consumer, which is going to lead you away from having a process. And so go towards the process. And not only that, it gives you a better life. Gosh, Garrett, like having a process, knowing what you're doing next, knowing what the next steps are, knowing what's accomplished and what still has to be accomplished removes the anxiety, right? He talks about in the psychology of money that, you know, not that long ago, about 70% of the total jobs out there were labor-based jobs, agriculture or some type of factory, right? Everything with the job stayed at the job. But a job like this, a career like this, and the majority of kind of things that we do now are mind based, right? We use our brain, which means, okay, the clock time may be over. You may have shut down the email, but you're still thinking about this stuff,
Yep.
right? And so having a process and a system allows to calm your brain so that you can get some relaxation at night. Don't like, wouldn't that be nice to be able to like go to bed without thinking like, is that person going to get back to me? Is this going to happen? What's going to do? What do we even do next? Does Sally really know where to find the house tomorrow? It's like, I don't know. Do you have a process in place to make sure that you confirm everything before the next day happens? Like, process, people. It's going to
Well,
help you move from a job to a career. And if you want, to an incredible business.
and one last thought around this, Matt, is that one things that I've learned in a working relationship with anybody, like in real estate, the minute that it turns into them against you against the marketplace that they're trying to figure out here right now, we're in the way. The more so that we can be us and them working towards a accomplished goal here. We talked about it with Matthew Ferrara, a co-mission. But like when we look at that as like we're in this together, and that very initial part of that working relationship is your time to build that. That is when that moment comes that they're like linked in arms with you going, this is my person that's going to go through this challenge with me and we're going to get to the other side. um if you're looking at this wrong right now, you can very easily get into a pushing that person off, where all of a sudden going like, okay, now it's them against us because we're trying to get them to do things that they don't really want to do, against now trying to figure out the market. And just be careful with that right now. You can, this again, this is where I look at this is the opportunity to bring them on that same side of the table so you guys can work together.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, Garrett, great topic to bring to the table. Guys, I hope you got some great value out of it. And if you want to learn more about like process and go in detail and actually get some coaching from myself and Garrett, you got to come join our 11 Circle, because that's where we do live coaching for everybody who's in there. Just go to lifeat10tenths.com. You can learn about that program and hop in there. And we're also starting to offer small group cohort coaching, which will be limited in terms of the number of people in there, getting direct coaching calls with Garrett, myself. And of course, we do one-on-one coaching. Space there is extremely limited,
Yeah.
but we were happy to share more information about that too. Details, you can either just send us a message, go to the website. We have a light access for the Life at 10 Tenths world that you can go in and kind of get a peek of what's going on in there. But the 11 Circle is our premier or our foundational coaching program. And we'd love you to be in there because we'll help you build process. We'll help you make sure that you move from a job to a career to a business if you so choose to, because our whole mission is to help you live at the pinnacle of your ability and purpose so that you can go and enjoy life and serve the world the way that you were meant to. So we really appreciate you guys joining us on these episodes. We love doing this. As you could tell, this was a high energy episode, Garrett. Like, I was like, gosh, are we talking too fast? If you were listening to these things at time and a half, this one, you may need to slow down a little bit to listen to it. But I thought it was great, man. I appreciate you.
Hey, man, appreciate you. Appreciate everybody listening out there. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll be back soon.